And we are live. Hello everyone, welcome to part 9 of Sonadow Play the Apollo Justice Ace Attorney Trilogy. Joining me as per usual is my lovely girlfriend IMShadow 007. Say hello, hon.
Hello!
And as we said on Twitter, we are finishing case 3 tonight, so let's get started.
Let's go! Well, this is it.
Today's the day it all goes down. And then there was yesterday. This meeting is over. Sorry. Just give us 5 more minutes. We can call them back after that. Sorry, no go. Come on, piano boy. We're leaving.
Tyrion, wait!
I never liked you. Either of you. Huh?
Darn it, we were so close! He was about to tell us! Hey, Apollo.
He didn't want us to hear what Machi had to say. And I think I know why. Time to bring down a little justice. What was that?
I think it's Safine. Who's that talking?
Oh, him. Valiant grammar! I exclaimed it as he walked into the door, normally.
You aren't the witness today, are you, Uncle Valiant?
A prosperous proposition. A preposterous proposition, rather. God, this guy is hard to voice.
I know.
How could I stand to stand upon the stand? Why, my secrets would be free for the plucking. I might even have to sign autographs. That's why I intend to remain hidden for the entire day.
Oh, with vanishing magic?
Indeed! I will jump upon an express train and express myself to the next town over. But before I go, a word of warning.
Warning? What?
A grand grammary glamour resides at the root of all that has happened. Do not forget this truth. A glamour? A spell, a sorcery, a great illusion. Miss Trucy, though it pains me to part so, I need to get in line for a ticket. Farewell!
And there he goes.
He sure seemed happy about that illusion thing.
Oh, big illusions are the bread and butter of a magician. You can't pull off a show without one. A big illusion is always a spectacle to remember. Usually it involves cutting up things like people or elephants. Or the Eiffel Tower. Anything, really.
So he was talking about what we saw at the concert.
Lemuel's disappearing act.
And Prosecutor Gavin's exploding guitar.
I wonder what he meant by it being the root of all that has happened.
Well, it's about time. Shall we go? Excuse me, sir. Yes? The scheduled starting time for the trial has been changed. The trial will not be commencing until 10:30 a.m. Sorry for the inconvenience. Huh? Did something happen? This is a first. It was by the judge's request. Some urgent personal business. Great. I bet he stayed up too late last night watching courtroom dramas. Apparently he's visiting the hospital again. The hospital? I believe it was mentioned that the Chief Justice's son is unwell. Apparently his condition worsened considerably this morning. The Chief Justice's son. The Chief Justice's son.
Oh, that's right. Remember yesterday morning, the judge said he had to go visit him after the trial.
There's an article about it in the newspaper. If you care to read about it yourself. Thank you.
An article about the Chief Justice.
Incuritus. Where have I heard that before?
Incuritus? Oh, shit. I'll let you read that article for us, Apollo. You'll see the TV Guide page to me.
Try not to lose the page with the funnies if you can.
So the Chief Justice's son has incuritus too.
My apologies for the delay. Court is now in session for the trial of, how do you say this name again? Machi Tobai, our suspect, Fortissimo. Right. It's his trial in any case. The defense is prepared, Your Honor. The prosecution is ready to rock. Is something wrong, Your Honor? No, well, yes. It's just, I've been friends with the Chief Justice since we were students. It pains me to see him going through such a difficult time.
Pancreatitis, was it? That article said there is no known cure.
Herr Judge, let me say with all honesty, I feel your pain. But now is not the time for tears. Now is the time for law. Indeed. We left off at quite the juncture yesterday. I asked Interpol about that number, IPXX314206. The agent registered under this number was Romain Latouche. Thanks for looking into that for us, Detective Crescent. It's a great help. Oh, no problem at all, Your Honor. I'll be heading out.
Hold it! Wait! That voice just now. It was him. I'm sure of it.
It was him?
That voice I heard talking to Mr. Latouche when I heard the gunshots fired. It was him! It was Mr. Darien!
No way! Quite a sensational ending. Who would have thought Darien would be a guest star in the season cliffhanger, as a suspect? I asked the prosecution to look into this matter. Please tell the court your findings. Darien Crescent is a member of my band, the Governors. He's also a detective, making the current charges serious indeed. Yet, after investigation, I found no cause to alter our case, or file new charges. And your reason is? Weren't you aware, Herr Forehead? He has an impeccable alibi. An alibi? Let us review the facts again, shall we? The concert held on the night of the shooting was in 3 sets. The Governors ripped up the stage during the first set. For the second set, our guest took center stage. The only performers appearing were myself, Lamiroir, and Machi, along with a drummer and bassist, for a total of 5. The shooting in the dressing room, however, took place during the third set. Lamiroir and the defendant, Machi Tobai, had left the stage at that point, and the Governors were already rocking. This is when 2 shots rang out at the scene of the crime. Shots heard by Detective Emma Skye, mind you.
And Apollo, you heard them too, right?
I sure did. Furthermore, Lamiroir herself witnessed the moment of the crime. Well, perhaps I should say, she heard the moment of the crime, when she claims to have heard Mr. Latouche and Detective Crescent talking. But that's impossible! Detective Crescent was... Precisely. Detective Crescent was on stage, getting his groove on, no less. Voila! A perfect alibi! Does the defense have anything to add to this? It's true. When I heard those gunshots, he must have been on stage. Still, there's something here that doesn't quite add up. It appears the defense has no objections. I believe we can safely say that Darien Crescent's alibi has been acknowledged. Which means that Lamiroir was sadly mistaken. Her testimony cannot be true. Very well. Of course, if we disregard her testimony, then I see no evidence keeping us from declaring a verdict. If indeed there are no objections.
Uh-oh, Apollo. If he declares a verdict now...
Ugh, but Prosecutor Gavin's case is airtight. Lamiroir might have been lying to protect Machi. How can I rely on her testimony? Wait, what about yesterday in the detention center?
About the case? What about the case?
He wants to tell us about Mr. Latouche's death? This meeting's over.
Darien?
Machi was trying to tell us something. I know it. Maybe the best thing to do is ask him, under oath. Very well. The court finds a defendant... what was his name again? Objection! Your Honor! No, that wasn't it. It was something like Marquis or Mr. Justice? Your Honor, before you declare verdict, I'd like to call another witness. Exactly who else do you need to hear from? A witness who, until now, has not been given a chance to speak in this court. Because he doesn't speak English. You don't mean... I do. The defense calls defendant Machi Tobai to the stand. What? But he doesn't speak English. We'll use an interpreter. Interpreter? I'm afraid you'll have to look elsewhere. I only speak a few phrases such as I love you and where's the toilet. The defense would like to request Lammy Roar as the interpreter. Lammy Roar? But there's a possibility she's protecting the defendant. But she'd be interpreting for the defendant. Why would she lie? This is most unusual. Bravo, Herr Forehead. Herr Judge, the prosecution agrees with the defense's request. If Lammy Roar lies, I'll be able to tell. Even my limited knowledge of the language should be enough for that. Well, if both prosecution and defense are for this, I see little cause for refusal. Finally, some progress. Bailiff, please show the defendant and Lammy Roar to the witness stand. I suppose there's a first time for everything. Shall we proceed? Your name, to begin with, if you would, Lammy Roar.
Yes. He says Machi Tobai, the defendant.
This is certainly a first for this courtroom. Not that we really needed an interpretation of that message in particular. So far, so good. Very well, Mr. Justice, if you would. Huh? If I would... What, Your Honor? Would what? You called the defendant to the stand, did you not? Would you have him What would you have him testify about? What would I want him to testify about? I hadn't thought that far yet.
Apollo! Aren't you going to ask him what he was about to tell you yesterday?
How can I if I don't know what he was saying?
Excuse me a moment, if I might speak.
Yes, Lammy Roar?
Just now, Machi said there is something about which we wishes to testify.
Machi wants to testify about something. What could it be? What sort of testimony is he talking about?
One moment, please.
The suspense is killing me.
What?
What? Well, Lammy Roar?
According to Machi, he has proof of his innocence.
What? This is a surprise.
Yahoo! Victory, Apollo! We did it!
This is sounding too good to believe, and I know what that usually means. Well, if that's true, then this is vital testimony. Lammy Roar, Machi, please testify to the court.
Very well. He says that word of Mr. Latus's death came as a great shock. But if the killing truly followed the lyrics of my song, I, that is, he, could not have done it. He says that because the lyrics are in English, he does not understand them. Perceive on the fourth statement.
I see. He wouldn't have understood the English lyrics to the song. That would prevent him from following them so closely. I wondered what he meant by proof. Why, he would only have to ask Lammy Roar to know the meaning of that song. Lammy Roar! Did you ever explain the lyrics of that song to him?
I did tell him generally what the song was about, but never in so much detail, and he never asked.
Has my oft-repeated warning already fled that forehead? Lammy Roar might be protecting the witness. Well, anyway, let us proceed with the cross-examination. Mr. Justice, if you would. Yes, Your Honor. Something's hidden in that testimony. I know it. I'll just have to trust my own bracelet to tell me where. It worked yesterday. It'll work today.
Perceive on the fourth statement. Look at Machi's eyes. Look at his eyes, they're gonna shift. There it is!
Gotcha!
Machi, you can't fool my eyes. You glanced toward her the very moment Lamiror said the word English. Why? And don't bother interpreting that. He understands me. Machi, tell the truth. You can understand English, can't you?
What are you saying? Of course he can't!
Must he continue this charade?
Mr. Justice, Machi says this. I know the word English.
Huh?
Before coming to this country, he heard me speaking English. He learned the name for this language, that is all.
What? Give me a break!
Is that such an unusual word to understand? Do you not know Espanol, for instance?
Well, yeah, but...
I'm sorry, but he truly does not understand your language.
Well, then explain this. How does he know the crime followed the lyrics?
Have you always been such a Have you always been such a suspicious-minded lad?
Well, yeah, he's a lawyer. It's kind of his job.
Yeah, it is simple. So simple it hardly requires an explanation. He read about it in the newspaper.
The newspaper?
The Borginian Daily Bugle. You can buy it in this country these days, you know. They have already begun to report about this case in our homeland.
I was right.
What is wrong, Mr. Justice? Your eyes. They are quite fierce all of a sudden.
Machi is lying. Maybe it's time to show them proof that he's lying.
Present the Borginian newspaper.
Take that!
I have here a Borginian newspaper. The Borginian Daily Bugle, as a matter of fact. Indeed, there is a feature article about the case. Could you read this for me, Machi? That's right. It doesn't mention the lyrics.
What? What is all this about?
I'm sorry, Machi. You couldn't have read about the lyrics in a Borginian newspaper. What does this mean?
But I don't see how it's possible. I know. He must have heard the lyrics when the police were doing their questioning. Yes.
Not possible. The subject of the lyrics was not brought up in police questioning. I read the full report myself. So the lyrics weren't in the newspaper and the police didn't mention them. The only place you could have heard them was in the courtroom. In English, no less. The witness will explain himself.
Machi says... He says...
Yes?
It is true I read the newspaper. But this is not where I read the lyrics. I was mistaken. Now I remember.
You remember?
He says he heard the lyrics from me.
What? Is this true, Lamiror?
Yes, I'm afraid I had forgotten it myself.
Then it looks like Herr Forehead's been jumping to conclusions again. It seems so, yes. No. I was onto something. I know it. I can't let this chance slip away. Time is an issue today. Mr. Justice, are you finished with your cross-examination?
What are you gonna do, Apollo?
If I'm going to keep on cross-examining, I better have an angle of attack. Or else... My bracelet's still reacting. Your Honor, please allow me to continue. If you must, you must. Very well. Witness?
I understand. It was I who was explaining the crime that followed the song. Perceive! Look at Lamiroir's throat! Look at her throat, she's gonna swallow again. There he goes!
Yeah, I'll need to go back to the start.
Yeah, here again. There!
Gotcha!
Lamiroir. I'm currently cross-examining Machi. Why should you be uncertain?
Me? Uncertain?
Yes, you swallowed the very moment you told the court. It was I who explained.
I see there's little point in trying to hide anything from you.
Lamiroir, are you indeed protecting someone?
That is not a question with a simple answer. To tell the truth, I do not believe it myself.
Then allow me to answer for you. Lamiroir, you're protecting...
Machi Tobai!
Take that!
Lamiroir, you're protecting Machi. That's why you lied and told us you had explained how the crime followed the song. I don't fault you for trying to help, but this is not the way. Machi, I believe you didn't do it, really. I trust you. But you've lied to us twice. And now you have Lamiroir lying on your behalf. If this is going to work, you have to trust me too. Your two lies cover a simple truth. You understand English. You have to. Witness, is this true? Do you understand English?
Yes, a little only.
What? First he could see, now he can talk. And you did not know about this, Lamiroir?
No, I did not. It's quite a surprise.
How many secrets is this witness hiding?
This is last.
Machi, could you tell us what really happened?
No shooting! I did no shooting!
So you weren't in the dressing room when I heard those two gunshots, correct? Apparently the answer to that question isn't simple either.
I was in dressing room, behind desk, manager, he on floor.
Which would be after the shooting, right?
Then there is voice. Voice? Or voices? Was it you or Emma or Apollo?
So when Machi went into the dressing room, Mr. Latouche had already been shot. And then we came to the door.
Panel high up. I take off. Run away! Run away!
So it was you who escaped through that air vent. As the prosecution has upheld all along, no less. The defendant has admitted to being at the scene. Might we take this as a confession?
Objection!
No! He's clearly denied that he did it!
No shooting! Manager on floor! Already on floor!
Objection!
The victim had already been shot, you say. I find that hard to believe. The defendant understood the song lyrics. He was at the scene of the crime. This can only mean one thing. He's the shooter. Does the defendant have anything to say to this?
He's clammed up, Apollo!
Then let's ask Mr. Justice. Will you require any further testimony from the witness? Is that it? Is there nothing else I can get him to testify about? Wait. No, of course there is.
What is this cocoon anyway? The cocoon, the silk, is a potent cure. A cure? Well, Machi, are you a smuggler? He won't tell me.
That cocoon has to have something to do with this. Machi, please, tell us the truth, for your own sake.
No! No more speak! No! Not to any of you!
So much for your precious trust, Hair Forehead. Hey, you were the one who didn't believe him. Regardless, this brings up an impasse. It does seem that the defense and defendant are at odds. I doubt we are likely to learn anything more of value should this continue. I see no other course but to declare a 5-minute recess. The defense will work things out with the defendant so that we might proceed.
Damn. Apollo Eustace?
Eustace. That's justice. Better learn how to say it if you ever want to get some.
Believe I know shooting.
Machi claims Mr. Latouche was already down on the ground when he entered the room.
Maybe it was a trap and he walked right into it? Judging by how he said justice, I think he's based on a French accent. Certainly, I hear revolver. Close, very close. Then I hear voice.
You heard gunshots?
Yes, it's true. I hear revolver, but only sound.
Wait, you're saying you went into the dressing room and found Mr. Latouche already dead, and then you heard shots? If that's true.
So, you were at the scene of the crime when you heard those shots?
And you escaped through the air vent.
I know. Huh? What do you know? I know of opening vent. I can leave stage and backstage.
So the vents went to both stage and the backstage area? Is that what he means?
Hey, he's right! Look, Apollo!
Huh? Yeah. But how do you know it was connected like that?
Wait, I bet his father was the architect that designed the hall or something. I hear this from Magician.
Magician?
Don't look at me!
A magician, huh?
Well, at least we're clear on one thing. Machi didn't shoot Mr. Latouche.
Yeah, but what does that leave us with? We're supposed to say he went into the room to find the body, then he heard the shots? That one's going to go over well in court, not.
Apollo, you're his defense. You're supposed to believe whatever he says, even lies. That's what Daddy always told me.
I'll just pretend you misheard him. Every time. So what do we do?
You're sure you won't testify, Machi? No talking, no. Well, it was worth a shot.
That cocoon.
Now let me talk. I can't go home. Can't go home? I can't go home to Borginia. I do not want to go home. The penalty for taking a cocoon from Borginia is death.
That's right. It's punishable by death. Of course. He's scared. Oh well, I guess we'll just have to try a different approach.
That's the spirit, Apollo. So what's your plan?
If Machi won't testify about it, we'll have to get someone else to testify.
Someone else?
I think we're out of time. Let's get back in there.
Right.
Court is now back in session. Mr. Justice, have you sorted things out with the defendant? Yes, Your Honor. We had a good talk. Very well. So will he testify? Your Honor, the defendant will not testify. What? Shame. And here I thought this was your big chance to turn the case around. Actually, it is. The defense would like to approach this case from a different angle, Your Honor. A different angle? If Machi won't testify, then I know who will. I would like to cross-examine the witness in this case. Lammy Roar. Lammy Roar?
Objection!
What are you up to now? I thought we determined yesterday that Lammy Roar's testimony was insubstantial. There's nothing you can... Lammy Roar was taken to the hospital yesterday with injuries. What happened? She was assaulted, Your Honor. Assaulted? Someone wanted Lammy Roar dead. Thankfully, she was able to save herself. What? I've heard no such report. Prosecutor Gavin. Why would anyone be out to kill Lammy Roar? Can you think of a reason? Well, think of how she's known in our country. A singer from overseas who doesn't speak English, yes? Yet someone tried to keep her mouth shut. Who could that have been? You don't think? I do. It was the same person who shot Mr. Latouche. The killer was afraid of her, afraid of what she might say. The defense believes that something was hidden in her testimony yesterday. Something that the killer doesn't want getting out. So am I to understand that this is what you're saying? Namely, that there is a nugget of truth in Lammy Roar's testimony? A nugget we have yet to uncover? Exactly. If Lammy Roar was attacked, this has serious implications. Very well. There were some vague points in her testimony during yesterday's trial. Perhaps we did not inquire as deeply as we might have into some. The court will hear Lammy Roar's testimony once more. Lammy Roar, I must apologize. We must ask you to stand again and speak.
You need not apologize. I know that Machi is innocent. And I will do all that I can until the court realizes this.
Let's review your testimony from yesterday. You told us you heard 2 gunshots and the shooter's voice through the window. And the voice belonged to Darian Crescent, yes?
That is correct.
At which point I proved she could not be correct. She couldn't have heard any of those things. The small window of the scene was closed and was found to be quite soundproof. You have nothing to say to that, Mr. Justice? I don't know exactly what yet, but I do know there's something there. There is, it seems, much you do not know. And yet it's my duty to hear him out. Perhaps the witness would be so kind as to testify once more to the court?
Of course, Your Honor. I was on my way from the stage to the backstage exit. That's when I heard them, Mr. Latouche and the detective. I heard the faint sound of gunshot and stopped. Then I heard another gunshot. There was the smell of gunpowder. I knew I must tell someone, but I was in a hurry, so I kept moving past the small window.
Pretty much the same as yesterday's testimony.
I'm sorry. I am not used to speaking much in this language. Perhaps my descriptions are lacking in some way. Yet everything I have said here is the truth.
And it's my distinct displeasure to say this. What you have said to have happened is impossible. Do I have to repeat myself? Lammy Roar was attacked because of this testimony. What, Trucy?
Apollo, for a moment there, you're pretty cool.
Maybe I do better when I don't try to think ahead. Very well, Mr. Justice. Perhaps you can coolly cross-examine the witness.
Press on statement 2.
Hold it!
Darian Crescent?
I did not know his name at the time. But yes, it was him, the one who took the stand yesterday.
How many times do I need to remind you that's impossible? There is no way you could have heard him. Because the window at the scene was closed? Is that why? Of course.
Apollo, if we keep asking the same questions as yesterday, we won't go anywhere.
She's right. Maybe there's a different angle I can try.
What were they talking about?
Lammy Roar, do you by any chance remember what they were saying to each other? If so, please tell us.
I have given it much reflection, but
I was afraid of this. She doesn't remember.
I only heard one phrase clearly.
A whole phrase? You remember something that was said? Why didn't you say anything yesterday?
Though my memory is clear, I was afraid to speak. You see, I do not understand what was said.
This could be it. The clue I've been waiting for. Well, what did he say?
It was the other man speaking, not Mr. Latouche.
The shooter, then. Darian Crest. Well, what did he say?
It's over. Press the switch, now.
Switch? And the shooter said this to the victim, Mr. Latouche?
I had thought it quite strange myself afterward.
It is a mystery. What could it possibly mean? Mr. Justice, care to shed some light on this? I mean, sure. I'd be delighted. It's, very, very vital. Maybe we could add that to the testimony.
Maybe, Apollo.
Hey, I'm trying my best here.
From the small window, I heard a voice say, press the switch now. Present the remote trigger.
Objection!
Press the switch. There's only one key that can unlock the mystery of those words. Oh? Yet there was nothing at the scene that could be called a switch, save the lights. True, there wasn't a switch at the scene, but it just so happens I have a switch right here. That certainly does look like a switch, doesn't it? The problem is, this was found not at the scene of the crime, but on the stage. The stage? Where the concert was held, yes? This was found hidden there. On the stage? Are you claiming that the voice Lammiror heard was of someone commanding another to press the switch? It's a possibility.
Objection!
Oh, Herr Forehead, I'd call that an impossibility. Why? It's hardly necessary for me to remind the court of the layout of the concert forum. The stage is quite far from Lammiror's dressing room. Not to mention that the Gaviners were in the middle of a concert on said stage. We aren't known for being a quiet band. You could shout all you wanted and not be heard.
The detective's voice was loud, but certainly not a shout.
So too have Herr Forehead's cries of possibility fallen far short of being heard. Sorry. But he wouldn't have needed to shout. Excuse me? You heard what I said, or do you need me to shout it out for you?
Ooh.
It would be quite simple to be heard on the stage from that dressing room. Oh, wait, you like evidence, don't you? How about this? Using this, it would be easy to get a message to someone on the stage from the dressing room.
The headset.
Take that!
Prosecutor Gavin, perhaps you're familiar with this? That's... What is it? Is that some kind of newfangled phone they invented while I wasn't looking? This is a type of transmitter, a communications device. Communications? From what I heard that night, everyone on stage was wearing one of these. Isn't that right, Prosecutor Gavin? Yes, actually. They're in for talking between band members. We all had one on. So you admit that if you were wearing one of these, talking from the backstage to the stage would be simple.
Objection!
True, but wait. Those send out an electronic signal. To avoid interference with the audio systems, their range is quite limited.
Lammiror said it was about 30 feet, right?
Look at the cross-section diagram of the concert forum. Ah, exactly. The walk from the stage to the backstage seems far, but the direct distance is less than 30 feet. That can't be! So when Lammiror heard the shooter's voice, he could have been talking to someone on stage!
Objection!
You're claiming that this is Switch in question? Why did it have to be on the stage at the time? It can be placed in a pocket and carried anywhere. Someone could have hit it on the stage after the fact.
Hey, he's got a point. How do we know where it was when she heard the voice? When the sheriff said, press the switch.
Well, I guess we don't. An unfortunate situation. I'm afraid that until we know where the switch was, there's little point in debating it. Ugh. I'm sure this was the way to go with this. What is this switch, anyway? We don't even know that basic fact. Wait a second. I do know what this switch is. And if you follow that train of logic to its incredible conclusion, it ends up in proof that completely changes this case.
What's up, Apollo? Apollo?
We know about this switch, right? We know what it is.
Yeah?
Well, think of when it was used that day. Think of what happened. Well, Mr. Justice, if you have no further information to share concerning the switch... Your Honor. Yes, Mr. Justice? I've been remiss in not telling the court this before. I know what this switch is. Well, it seems the defense is set upon linking this switch to the case. Let's hear evidence of the link. What evidence do you have to explain what this switch is?
The igniter.
Take that!
Prosecutor Gavin, you remember this. That's what? Is it another one of those newfangled phones? This is an igniter. A phone looks like this. I mean, it could be innards of a smartphone.
Yeah.
Igniter? You mean like a lighter? Yes, actually. You aren't saying this switch is a remote? I am. This is a remote trigger for an igniter. What? Look, I'll show you. Mr. Justice, you will cease and desist from burning down this courtroom. Sorry. That was a bit more fire than I'd expected. If my whiskers had caught on fire. Prosecutor Gavin, let me repeat myself. This switch is a remote igniter trigger. Doesn't that suggest something to you? You're talking about what happened to me, aren't you?
Ah!
Exactly. The night of the concert, there was one unusual burst of flame.
His guitar.
When your guitar caught fire in the middle of your performance. Wasn't that part of the stage show, though? Prosecutor Gavin was entirely unaware such a thing had been planned. And the guitar that burned was a valuable keepsake.
That's right. He got in the Virginia from Lemuar. He said the sound was amazing before it burned, of course. Now it just kind of smokes.
The better the better the guitar, the brighter it burns. Hair forehead. Yes? Don't tell me you're trying to tie these two things together. Those being the shooter's voice heard by Lamirar, and the guitar suddenly catching on fire? I am. It's really simple when you think about it. Mr. Latouche and the shooter were at the crime scene. The shooter was wearing a headset. He ordered someone on stage to press the switch. The switch was pressed and the guitar caught fire. Well, that does seem to make sense. Though something about it is bugging me. Can't quite put my finger on it. Really? It seems pretty simple to me.
Objection!
Hair forehead, don't destroy what little respect I have for you. I was expecting something a little more sensible. I guess I was wrong.
What's this all about, Prosecutor Gavin?
His simple story simply makes no sense. Think, that night my guitar caught fire, yes? The cause may have been this indeed. However, the guitar caught fire during the second set.
Ah! That's right, of course! The guitar caught fire during Lemuar's song.
Indeed, yet the shooting happened during the third set. The two are utterly unrelated.
Yes, that must have been what was bugging me. The whole premise for this is faulty.
See, his story makes no sense.
Objection!
Are you sure about that?
What exactly do you mean, Mr. Justice?
Maybe it's not the premise for my explanation of the switch that's at fault. Maybe it's our premise for the entire case so far.
What premise is this specifically?
I'm glad you asked. I'm saying that maybe the killing didn't take place in the third act.
Objection!
What's this? But Detective Emma Sky heard shots and found the body. All this happened in the third act.
Objection!
Gunshots rang out. And according to this testimony, Machi was in the dressing room at the time.
Where are you going with this, Mr. Justice?
Stay with me, Your Honor. He also told us in his testimony, namely, that the victim had already been shot. We all heard gunshots, but no one saw the shooting. This is insane! Just before the shooting took place, the shooter was heard on the headset, telling someone to press the switch. The next moment, Prosecutor Gavin's guitar burst into flames. We know that a remote trigger igniter was inside the guitar. From all these facts, we can only draw one conclusion. The crime did not take place during the third act, but during the ballad performance, the second act. What?
Order! 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 But that goes against the evidence.
What does, Your Honor?
The crime was carried out according to the lyrics of that song, yes?
He's right, look! The bullet is supposed to come after the fire?
You're thinking about it the wrong way.
Huh?
Look, why would the shooter craft the events of the day to follow the lyrics anyway? It's an awful lot of trouble to go through, with little merit for the person doing it.
Well, I'm sure whoever it was had some reason.
Yes, they did. A reason that made it advantageous to follow the lyrics.
You're saying the order was reversed on purpose? Reversed? Prosecutor Gavin?
If the criminal followed the lyrics strictly, then yes. The shooting would have had to come after the guitar burst into flames. Yet, her forehead has raised another possibility. He's claiming that the bullet came not after, but just before the fire. Couldn't have put it better myself. We were only meant to think that the shooting came after the guitar burst into flames. That was the criminal's objective. The crime followed the lyrics to a point, but that was the ruse. Why else would the killer risk discovery by moving the body? That was the final touch to make us think he'd followed the lyrics the whole way.
Order! 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 That would explain this most unusual situation.
It does. The killer changed the order of events to create himself an alibi. In other words, the killer was someone who had an alibi for the third set, but not the second.
Objection!
I was hoping it wouldn't come to this, but sadly it has. Let me tell you why your little fairy tale makes no sense at all. Oh, it sounds good. I'll give you that. You've given us a reason why the killer bothered following the lyrics of my song. But I question your logic. For it's flawed from the very beginning. Flawed? Yes, a contradiction, Herr Forehead, one I've pointed out several times, no less. At the time of the crime, the small window at the scene was closed. However, how could Lamirov have heard a voice through it? Oh. I know that you would like to divert our attention from this critical fact, but you're basing your entire line of reasoning on a false premise. Right. Lamirov's testimony is my entire case. That voice you heard, the shooter's voice.
What if she couldn't hear it, Apollo?
You're muffled.
What if she couldn't hear it, Apollo?
Look, what do we have? Look, what do we have? A man saying press the switch. And near the crime scene, we have a switch, which acts as a remote trigger for an igniter. And last, but not least, Prosecutor Gavin's flaming guitar. It can't all be coincidence, but how do I make it work? I see a more direct line of questioning is required. When the crime scene was investigated immediately after the crime, that window was closed. Care to tell us how Lamiroir heard the voice?
A key point to be sure. Mr. Justice, can you explain this to the court?
Okay, Justice, you've got one thing to prove and one thing only. Lamiroir heard a voice. And she heard it during the second set. Think, how was Lamiroir able to hear the voice?
She was somewhere else.
When we investigated the scene, the window was closed. The shooter had no reason to close it, had it been open either. Meaning it was impossible to hear the voice through that window. It's good to hear you making sense again. For a moment I was afraid you might be a Borginian too. As I was saying, Lamiroir could not hear the voice through the window. So there can only be one explanation. She heard the voice from another location entirely.
What's this?
You do amuse me so. And here I thought you had a good sense. You and good sense were back on speaking terms. Now I'm afraid you and good sense speak two entirely different languages. Shall I interpret for you, Herr Forehead? Lamiroir clearly stated she heard the voice through that small window. And there was only one small window at that scene. Are you sure? Think about it. Isn't there another small window at that scene?
There is?
Ah, I know that look. He wants us to ask him. Very well. You claim Lamiroir heard that voice from another location. Mr. Justice, show us where this location was.
Lamiroir heard the voice from here.
The air vent. Up. No, up. Yep, there.
Take that!
This is where Lamiroir heard that voice from.
But that's no small window. That's the air vent.
What did she tell us? She said she's a Borginian, unfamiliar with our language. It's not a stretch to imagine she called this air vent a small window.
Objection!
Now you've done it. You've gone beyond ridiculous and into ludicrous. So Lamiroir was up in the ventilation system listening to this man's voice? That's the only logical explanation, yes. Logical? I do not think that word means what you think it means, Herr Forehead. Okay, what about it isn't logical? It hardly merits saying. Why would Lamiroir be in the ventilation system? Hiding like a rat. No offense intended to her, of course. The explanation for that is simple, Prosecutor Gavin. Isn't it, Lamiroir? You've been listening to our discussion here, yes?
Yes. I admit it's had me quite confused since yesterday. Yes, the small window was closed. But why should that mean I could not hear through it? I fear our prosecutor might himself need an interpreter. Damn! Roasted.
The problem here is words. Lamiroir, this small window, through which you heard the voice. Was it up high on the ceiling of the room, not low on the wall?
Yes, it was up on the ceiling.
What?
Clavier getting roasted, just like his guitar.
I will have order! Witness, you will clarify this statement to the court. Are you in fact saying that you were up above the ceiling of the room? And that's where you heard the moment of the crime?
Yes, in fact, I was. I'm sorry, I never imagined it would become such an important point.
Yes, well, why the hell were you up there?
Magic act.
I believe it's time for another testimony.
I'm not sure I can't.
May I remind you that this is a murder trial? We will hear your testimony. Tell us why you witnessed the crime from above the ceiling of that room. Please.
Well, looks like I'm on the right track.
Yes, I was above the ceiling when I heard the voice. I had heard there was a small window there before.
You're muffled again.
I heard that there was a small window there before. It was in the middle of my performance. I had no time to report what I had heard. As to why I was there, I cannot say. I am bound to secrecy on this matter. Don't you be pleading the fifth on this one, Missy.
Bound to secrecy?
In my line of work, one has many obligations to uphold.
But you say you were in the middle of your performance. So this did happen during the second set.
I did not witness the crime, you must understand. I only know what I heard.
Yes, but you must tell us what you were doing in detail.
That's what the cross-examination is for, yeah, Herr Forehead? Our mission in this court is to discern the truth. No obligation, no binding the pact, may hinder that mission.
Very well. Mr. Justice, you may begin the cross-examination.
What are you gonna do, Apollo?
I'm going to find out the truth. She was up above that ceiling for a reason. I just have to get it out of her.
Present the videotape on the fourth statement.
Oops.
It was a disappearing act.
Lamiror, truth be told, the reason for your presence above that ceiling is quite clear. Especially when you consider what happened during your performance.
What happened?
Yes, it's all right here on this video.
It wraps itself around me. Now through the air I fly. Whoa, whoa, burning on in my heart fire, burning my love away, all the way, like a bullet full of fire. Take my life away, all away. Guitar, guitar, up together in the sky.
As we can see, Lamiror was clearly not on stage for her entire performance. Ugh! Though it saddens me to be so realistic. Lamiror is incapable of actually vanishing, let alone teleportation. So the only explanation is that she was hidden from view. And during that time, she moved to the back of the forum.
Apollo!
But what, Trucy?
It's not nice to reveal magician's secrets, and it's against the rules.
Oh, here we go again.
Too bad.
But I'm a lawyer. I'm not supposed to be nice.
Thank you!
This is all very fascinating, but how is it possible? There is only 20 seconds between when she disappears and reappears. She couldn't have moved that fast. Is something wrong, Prosecutor Gavin?
This was his concert, his show. He knows how the illusion was performed.
Aha!
He's just realizing his own oversight. Let's look at the cross-section diagram again. Here we can trace a route through the ceiling. It goes from the stage, through the backstage, to the rear of the forum. Recall Lamiror's testimony from yesterday.
I was on my way from the stage to the backstage exit. There was something like a little window there. That's how I saw it.
She went from the stage to the backstage exit. A perfect description of the route above the ceiling.
Lamiror knew of this because of her part in the illusion. But she wasn't the only one who knew. What? Just now in the lobby, Machi told me something.
I know. I know for opening vent. I can leave stage and backstage.
He said that? Oh, were you not informed, Prosecutor Gavin? I knew about the Vanishing Act, of course. Yet, I had no idea of the route that would be used. Why didn't that magician tell me?
Magicians only reveal details to their acts on a need-to-know basis. They're the bread and butter of a magician's life, you know.
Which is why he bound Lamiroar to secrecy. Well, Lamiroar?
I'm impressed, Mr. Attorney. Machu was right about you.
So, what does this mean? Are you saying you used this route above the ceiling?
I did.
Well, that's that. But I'm still a little confused.
Why is that, Your Honor?
As I said before, there was very little time between when she disappeared and then she reappeared. 20 seconds, tops. How could she do it so fast, especially if she stopped to hear the shooter's voice?
That's a good question.
Can the witness explain this to the court?
I cannot.
Very well. Mr. Justice,
Yes?
it's all up to you. Do your thing.
What thing, Your Honor?
You need to explain how Lamiroar was able to teleport like she did. Or I'm throwing your case out with the bathwater.
Why do I get picked on? It's Lamiroar who isn't going along with the program here. I mean, he's got a point.
As I have stated before, I am not at liberty to speak of the illusion that night in detail.
Then you'll just have to tell us what you can. We'll hear your testimony on this. Mr. Justice, it will be your job
To wring the truth out of her.
to wring the truth.
Yes, if you would, please.
Right. I feel like a student before finals.
Good luck, Apollo.
Thanks.
You'll need it. I followed the route exactly as I was instructed. There's an emergency exit in the backstage where a stagehand waited. From there, one can enter the forum on the opposite side from the stage. The plan was for me to move there in 2 minutes. I was on my way when I heard the voice.
2 minutes, you say. The mystery deepens.
I suppose it was too much to hope that the judge would come up with something.
As does my curiosity. Take it away, Mr. Justice.
Right, Your Honor. All I have to do is find the contradiction between what Lamiroar's saying and what we can see plainly in the video.
I figured it out already. I am the magician after all.
Well, tell me!
Not a chance.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
I can't reveal another magician's secrets. Come on.
You can in a courtroom. Hey, you're supposed to be on my side here.
Press on the fourth statement. What does she mean by 2 minutes?
Hold it!
2 minutes?
Yes, it can't be done in 1 minute if you are running.
Running? In that cramped dark tunnel above the ceiling?
Mr. Attorney, have you forgotten? Dark or lit, it makes no difference to me.
That's true, but...
So you're saying that on the night of the concert you made the trip in 2 minutes?
Yes, though I nearly didn't make it in time. You see, I stopped halfway.
Lamiroar disappears in the video for 20 seconds. But she says she made the trip in 2 minutes. How?
If you want my professional opinion, I'll bet the answer's right there in that video.
You know, you could just make this less hard and just tell me.
Well, Mr. Justice, perhaps you have some evidence for us? Something that can explain the discrepancy between the video and her testimony?
It's explaining the discrepancy?
Present evidence.
There's one piece of evidence that explains the discrepancy between the video and testimony.
Her brooch.
Take that!
Lamiroar, do you happen to remember this brooch?
Aha! The brooch! We saw that yesterday, did we not?
It was found at the scene. It was found at the scene, Your Honor. And you're bringing this up now. Why? I thought we had already determined when it was dropped. So did I. But we hadn't. Take another look at the video. They really wanted to show off the power of the DS.
Yep.
Here, you can see she's wearing the brooch. So she is. Let's look a bit later.
Ah.
What? The brooch! It's gone!
What? Yes. The brooch disappeared in the short space of 20 seconds. And it takes a full minute to run from the stage to the backstage. Which means there can only be one explanation. That Lammeror we see before the Vanishing Act and the Lammeror we see after are two different people.
Yep.
What?
The brooch was found in the floor of the crime scene. And not just on the floor. But on the floor directly beneath the air vent. Lammeror, tell me. Did you drop the brooch on your way from the stage to the backstage? At the very moment you witnessed the crime?
Yes, I think I did. Never again, magicians can use decoys.
Order! Prosecutor Gavin!
From your expression, I gather you had no idea this was the case, Herr Judge. I, of course, knew about it.
What?
Don't get me wrong, I wasn't hiding it, it just never occurred to me. That the switch and the shooting took place at the same time. So, I was right. There was a switch. There was. Just before the stage's tower rose, Lammeror was replaced.
While we're on the subject, just who was this replacement, Lammeror?
Why, the man behind the illusion, Valent Gramarye. It was Gramarye? It's quite the illusion, but I still don't get one thing.
Yes.
The switch happened before the tower rose, correct? So you weren't on stage.
That's right.
But this, fake Lammeror is still singing. And she's pretty good.
That's true.
Apollo, have you ever heard of lip syncing? Come on, Apollo, that's an easy one. They were just playing a recording. Say thank you.
The Gaviners aren't some kind of air guitar band, Fraulein.
Oh, you mean I'm wrong?
When we play a show live, we play live. No recordings. Perhaps you can explain, Lammeror?
Very well.
Yes, do tell, and add it to your testimony.
I had to keep singing, even while I moved. Hold it!
Hold it!
You were singing?
Yes. Mr. Gavin expressed a dislike for recordings. So I used this.
Christ, this band really is based on Queen.
Yeah.
Wait, so you were singing the whole time? Even when you were crawling above the ceiling toward the backstage?
Why should it matter where I was singing? Wherever I go, it is the same darkness.
But if you were singing while you were walking...
That's right! Wouldn't the shooter and the victim have heard? She was singing right over their heads, after all.
That is right. Are you sure? You have to be pretty hard of hearing to miss someone singing in the ceiling. Once again, we come back to the state of the crime. Of the scene of the crime. What state?
I know what he means. That old speaker, Apollo.
The speaker? The speaker was blaring at the time of the murder.
Ah, that's for monitoring the stage from this room. Monitoring? It pipes in a real-time feed from the stage microphones. Useful for knowing when your set is coming up.
Satisfied? That dressing room was fitted with a large speaker playing a direct feed from the stage. At my request, actually. So Lammeror singing in the ceiling sounded just like Lammeror singing over the speaker.
Ingenious! Her voice was hidden by her voice!
Ah,
Lammeror?
I have just remembered something.
Do tell.
When I heard the noise, the gunshots, yes? It startled me, so I
So you...
stopped singing.
What?
I forgot the words I was supposed to sing.
The song stopped?
Thankfully, it was the very beginning of the second verse. so not many would notice.
Forehead, that mixing board I lent you, where is it? The mixing... huh?
The machine, Apollo! The one that breaks music into tracks!
Oh, this? I'd completely forgotten about it. Let's take a listen.
Sugar, oh, that night in your embrace, when you stole away the keys, my heart held on to so tight. Pleasure, like but a fleeting melody.
The song does not stop there. It does? I must have missed it. Look at the lyric sheet, and now the top of the second verse. See where it says pleasure, pleasure?
Ah.
Now listen again.
When you stole away the keys, my heart held on to so tight. Pleasure, but a fleeting melody. Aha!
This is evidence indeed. I believe we are guilty of making a terrible mistake. The crime didn't happen during the third set. It happened during the second, during Lamiroar's ballad. If that's true, then no one on stage during the second set could have been the shooter. Which means that Darien Crescent could have done it. He wasn't on stage for the second set. Well, Prosecutor Gavin? Fascinating. I don't believe I've ever seen a trial turned around quite so thoroughly. Yet one problem remains.
What's that, Prosecutor Gavin?
Herr Forehead's theory does have a certain kind of logic to it. Yet it's entirely based upon Lamiroar's testimony.
Yes, is there a problem with this?
Well, it's quite simple, though it pains me to say it. What if she's lying to protect the defendant?
Objection!
But you have no proof. All I'm saying is that the truth is yet unclear. Until we hear directly from the man himself.
The man? You don't mean...
Yes. Though he is a friend and band member, Darien Crescent must take the stand. I see no other way.
As someone with a new perspective on the case...
As a suspect, to be frank. Finally, the rat's coming out of his hole. And I'm ready to catch him. Darien Crescent, get ready for justice.
This is a good time as any to pause for a brief recess. The prosecution will summon the witness. Have him here and be ready by the time we begin.
I'm the last man who needs to be reminded of what his duties are.
Very well. Court is adjourned for a 15-minute recess.
Apollo, I can't believe it! It really happened during the second act? And right in the middle of Lamiroar's performance?
The reason why she was in the air vent. And that switch and the flaming guitar. When you link it all together, that's what you end up with.
Valent. Oh, Phoenix.
That's why I
I
never...
knew you had what it took. Go ahead.
That's
Daddy!
That's why I never say the question marks, because you don't know who it is.
Yeah. Daddy!
Mr. Wright! You believed in me? Not really. Huh? I just thought that'd make a cooler entrance than, say, hiya. Why do I even bother hoping?
Where have you been lately, Daddy? You haven't been coming to the office at all.
Sorry about that, Trucy. I'm on a secret mission.
Secret? You mean like you're undercover?
Like Mr. Latouche, only shorter and not as well dressed?
Oh no, what if you're shot too, Daddy?
Would I do a thing like that to you? Anyway, I'm off for a while again. Huh? You're leaving? Oh, one more thing before I go. What? Good luck. Right. Is that all you came to say? I think you have things pretty much under control. You'll get Machi Tobai off the hook, no doubt. Yeah, but you're after the detective, aren't you? Darien Crescent. It won't be easy proving he did it. Especially not under the current court system. The current court system? What did Prosecutor Gavin say during the trial? Your case is based on the fragile assumption, namely that our diva divine is telling the truth.
But what about all the proof? The brooch and the switch.
A piece of jewelry and a lyrical blunder? There are plenty of other ways to explain these things. The flaming guitar, too. All because you lack the definitive proof of their connection to the case.
But...
If the sultry songstress is lying, your case melts like butter in a frying pan, leaving behind the faintly singed scent of failure. So what do I do? Like I said, good luck. And be aware that it'll be impossible to prove his guilt by conventional methods. Ugh. Oh, that reminds me. I have something to give you from our detective friend. Detective Sky. Emma? Let's see. This bag of snacks here was meant for me. Ah, here it is.
where are those, Daddy? They don't look very good snacking material.
They were found at the scene. Analysis of the fragments revealed traces of gunpowder.
Gunpowder?
Probably a firecracker or something similar like the ones kids are into these days. These fragments were found under the sofa at the scene of the crime, actually. Under the sofa?
Hey, Apollo! That's where we found that little device thingy.
Right, this. Well, finally, some evidence that makes sense. Thank you. That's all from me, I suppose. See you after the verdict. Maybe. Right. Every man has an igniter inside him. Excuse me? Find Darien Crescent's igniter and set it off.
He flies like a phoenix.
And he walked out of the door, just like a magician, normally.
What does he want us to do? No conventional methods? What does that mean?
I guess we just have to take his advice and hope it makes sense when the time comes.
I guess.
We're almost at the finish line. Hang in there, Trucy.
Final stretch.
Court is now back in session. Prosecutor Gavin, where's Detective Crescent?
In the witness lounge, ready to be called at any time.
Very well.
Might I add, I don't believe any of this. Darien was the first detective I ever worked with. We stopped working together when he moved to Criminal Affairs Division 3. But his guitar playing, it fires my imagination. That's nice, but it has nothing to do with the matter at hand. Correct? Oh, I know, Herr Forehead.
Very well. Call the final witness to the stand. Detective Darien Crescent.
Name and occupation, please. Darien Crescent, Detective, Criminal Affairs Division 3. That's the International Affairs Division for those who didn't know. And I'm a guitarist for the Gaviners. Maybe you've heard of us?
Do you fully understand the circumstances of which you stand before us today?
Yeah, I understand, Your Honor. What I don't understand is how you let this happen, partner. You gave me your word I wouldn't be standing here. The situation's changed, Darien, and don't call me partner. Feh, so much for old friends. I see what you're doing, Darien. You're pressing the prosecution. Your Honor, if we could begin the trial?
Yes, it's high time we did. Let's hear your testimony.
How may we begin with your response to Lamy... You may begin with your response to Lamirore's testimony. If, in fact, you have anything to say about it. Oh, I got plenty to say. Lying must be a national pastime in Virginia. And wherever you're from, Mr. Justice. Ha! Conventional methods are out of the window, huh? Here goes nothing. The diva's lying, plain and simple. She's got nothing to back up her story. In the first place, she never heard my voice. She forgot the words because she heard gunshots? As if. Didn't Detective Emma Skye hear those gunshots during the third set anyway? The shooting took place when I was on stage, mate. So you claim Lamirore's testimony was a lie. Hey, don't get me wrong. I dig what she's doing trying to protect that kid. And she's got the court eating vague statements out of her hand just because she's blind. You go too far, Darian. Look,
Yeah, you took that back.
Look, all I'm saying is you've got a reliable witness. Why not listen to the detective? Detective Skye? I see. Mr. Justice, you may begin the cross-examination. You didn't waste any time finding our weak spot. I can't do this with Lamirore's testimony alone. I'll have to find some other way to prove when the shooting took place.
Present the burnt fragments on the fourth statement.
Objection!
Some things were found at the crime scene after yesterday's trial. What things? The first was this small device. That's the remote-triggered igniter. Correct. And one more thing. What are those? The remains of something burnt? Not another guitar, I hope. Traces of gunpowder were found on these fragments. We have a report that it was something like a firecracker. How did Gavin know about this? What, you think Detective Skye works for you? I received the report this morning before coming here. That's when I made my decision, actually. What decision is this, Prosecutor Gavin? I registered Darian as a witness in today's trial. Just in case. That raises another possibility. The gunshot-like sounds during the third set could have been 2 firecrackers rigged to go off by remote control. You got an active imagination, don't you? But you shouldn't say every little thing you think. Your explanation there seems a bit too convenient to me. How so? So you're saying these firecrackers just happened to go off? Right when the 2 witnesses came walking by? Ha!
That's right. Darian was out on stage when it happened, Apollo. How would he know someone was backstage right then?
If a firecracker goes off in the forest, there's no one to hear. You get my drift? Why go through the whole trouble, mate? Ugh. How do I explain this? You may not look it, but Darian is a gifted detective. Show any weakness and he's sure to find it. He may not look it, partner? Gee, thanks, mate. That reminds me. I happened to pass through that very hallway several times that day myself. And I saw something odd there just before the third set. Something odd? A headset. The kind of all the band and staff members were wearing. That's right. We picked this up in front of the door to the dressing room. What if that headset wasn't dropped but placed? And what if it was turned on? You could hear what was going on in that hallway. Even if you were out on stage. Feh. Whose side are you on, Gavin? Listen to me, Darian. There are no sides in a court of law. Yeah, he should know that. He's a detective.
I know, right?
Which is why I now turn to you, Herr Forehead. I have a question for you. Huh? For me? The igniter and the burnt fragments that were found at the scene of the crime. It's certainly a possibility that they were part of a ruse to fake the sound of gunshots. Throw the headset from the hallway into the mix and you could fabricate an alibi. But we're still no closer to proving anything. Those gunshots might have been real or fake, we can't say. You've raised the possibility that the shots heard during the third set were faked. Now, you need to prove the other half of the case. The other half? Look, I'll just tell him. He wants you to prove the thing went down in the second act, while our little piano player was on stage. That's right, that right, Gavin? Indeed. If you can't prove that, then to continue this cross-examination will be pointless.
Well, Mr. Justice, can you prove the crime took place during the second set?
Yeah, I think.
You better know, Apollo, otherwise we're through.
It can be proven. You make it sound like someone else is going to come along and do it for you.
Let's continue with the cross-examination then, shall we? Witness, your testimony, if you would.
This isn't going to be easy. I need some decisive proof and fast. Ha! You're ready, kid? 'Cause I am.
This is new.
The shooting took place during the second set. If you're so sure, let's see your proof.
The mixing board!
Objection!
It seems there was clear proof left behind. Right here in Lamirore's song.
Her song? What exactly is this, device thingy? A new variety of gramophone, perhaps?
Come on, we just used this, and don't get me started on gramophone. This device was used to record the performance part by part.
Part?
You move the sliders to adjust the volume. Each instrument is adjustable separately, Lamirore's voice included.
Ho, but what does this prove?
According to Lamirore's testimony, at the moment of the shooting, she forgot the words to the song. Ah, you intend to examine the recording at that moment, yeah? We might even hear those gunshots. Exactly.
Ridiculous.
How are you supposed to hear gunshots back in that dressing room out on stage? Have you forgotten, Darian? We were all wearing these headsets.
Oh, right.
We were all deeply involved in our performance. But Lamirore's headset would have picked up what she heard all the same.
Then let's get to analyzing that recording. Right now.
Lamirore stopped singing when she heard the shots fired. Find that spot, and I'll find the gunshots.
All right. Now, highlight track 1 and go to the second part of the song. Press, and then present it. There. You'll hear gunshots. Yeah, select track 1 on the second segment of the song and present it.
Take that!
Your Honor, listen closely to this part. This is the track with Lamirore's vocals. There they are.
Yep. There it is.
I did hear something faintly there, yes. What? It sounded like a gunshot.
What? This has to be some kind of mistake. All right, penis head, calm down. I believe a case has been made. Gunshots were heard during the second set, which means Lamirore's testimony was true.
Order!
We heard one gunshot, not two.
Yeah.
So she was telling the truth about what she heard?
It was the other man speaking, not Mr. Latouche.
Well, what did he say?
It's over. Press the switch, now.
Just after that, there was a gunshot, and then the guitar caught on fire. Detective Crescent, you weren't on stage during the second set. You could have done it.
Why did we only hear one gunshot on the recording? Weren't 2 bullets fired from this weapon?
Lamirore was moving through the air vent, Your Honor. She must not have been close enough to hear for the mic to catch the first shot. But then she passed over the dressing room, and the gun fired again, and Mr. Latouche's life was taken. Well, Detective Crescent? Once again I'm reminded of something. Our performance that day.
Your performance?
Seeing the mixing board jogged my memory. You were there too, Herr Forehead. What is it with today? Problem after problem. Tongue! My hog won't start. My guitar case is busted. My guitar's been burnt to a crisp, and to top it all off, someone's dead. And then there was that performance just now. What was that all about? This part is off. Which is that? Second guitar. It was you, Darian. I thought it strange at the time. How could you miss such a simple cue? I know you. I know how you play. You're better than that.
Yeah, well, You what? And the prosecutor... And Prosecutor Gavin, what are you getting at?
I'm talking about the murder weapon, Mr. Latusse's .45 caliber hand cannon. As we've learned, even the shooter doesn't go unscarred with a revolver that size. The kickback is enough to dislocate your shoulder. If you're an amateur, that's why you hold it with 2 hands.
Exactly.
Wait. You mean his playing was affected because he hurt himself shooting that revolver? You're forgetting something.
Yes, Detective Crescent?
I'm a trained police officer, you know. I've had firearms training, plenty of it. I'm no amateur. The standard sidearm issued to police officers is a .38 caliber weapon. I believe I mentioned that before. Police in Japan were given .38 revolvers. A much tamer beast. Also, the murder weapon belonged to the victim, Mr. Latousse, which suggests there was a struggle between killer and victim.
So, the killer might not have been holding that revolver correctly when he fired. Is that what you mean?
The thought had occurred to me, yes.
Well, does the witness have anything to say to this? Detective Crescent!
What I want to ask is what Mr. Sleeves rolled up ready for action has to say.
Hey, you, attorney!
Me? Exactly what piece of your evidence is decisive again? You got a little noise on the tape that could be anything. And you have an alleged guitar cue missed due to a .45 caliber kickback. I weep for this case, Gavin. I really do. You can line up your little weak pieces of evidence all you want. I didn't shoot that manager. And that's the obvious truth.
The witness has a point. The defense's arguments, while persuasive, are not decisive. I believe we should hear what the witness has to say in response to the case so far. Your testimony, please, Detective Crescent. Tell us your reasons why you couldn't have done it.
Oh boy.
Come on, why would I even want to kill that manager? You want a reason? Easy. I've got no motive, mate. That was the diva's first trip to the country, right? How could I possibly know her manager? As if I didn't know him, why would I want to kill him? You did know him.
No motive? Yeah, ha! Bullshit!
A simple reason indeed. Prosecutor Gavin.
Is it the case that Miss Latousse had not been to our country before? According to our records, yes, not even once.
I see. Very well. Mr. Justice, you may begin the cross-examination.
Great. Now I need to find a motive.
Present the cocoon, the replica on the second statement. The replica.
Objection!
Your Honor, take a look at this.
What's that? Looks like a candy.
It's not. Don't lick it, please. Detective Crescent, ever seen this? Looks like a piece of candy. What it is evidence. Don't lick it before you try it.
Damn.
Specifically, this is a replica of a cocoon. It was found among the victim's belongings.
A cocoon? Never seen one that color.
It's a variety only found in the Republic of Virginia. Nowhere else.
All right, but what is this cocoon replica doing in my courtroom? Surely this has nothing to do with a motive for killing Mr. Latouche, does it?
It does. Wait, I think it does.
You don't sound so confident, mate. A cocoon. Is it one of those silky cocoons? The kind you can make, well, silk out of?
Not this one.
This cocoon makes a powerful curative. A curative? For what? Apparently it's most effectuous at treating a disease thought incurable. It's only medicine of its kind. However, it's illegal to take one of those healing cocoons out of Borginia. Whatever for? If it's such a miracle cure, why not share it with the world?
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I've been wondering.
We looked into the matter at some length. Apparently it isn't difficult at all to manufacture the remedy from the cocoon. Yet, if you change the process only slightly, you can easily make a large quantity of something else entirely. A deadly poison, in fact. What?
That makes sense.
Yep. There was an incident several years ago where some of these got onto the black market. It caused quite a commotion in the global community, though the media was kept largely unaware. Intriguing. All this has led to a strict ban on the cocoon's export, one rigidly enforced by Interpol, among others. Interpol? Right! The victim, Romain Latouche, was an Interpol agent. Detective Crescent, you insist on referring to him as manager. But that is misleading. Romain Latouche wasn't killed as a manager. He was killed as an undercover agent. So I was trying to smuggle this gumball into our country? That's what you're trying to say? I'm saying that could well be a motive for murder. Oh, so I was going to sell it on the black market, make myself a pretty penny. Ridiculous. Totally unthinkable. Unthinkable, you say? Why? Perhaps it's time for another testimony about this smuggling of cocooned business. International Affairs got a memo about these cocoons. Interpol's all hot and bothered about them. Can't sell them on the black market. Too dangerous. Yeah, cocoon smuggling isn't exactly lucrative anymore. Hey, I'm in International Affairs. I know the deal. Indeed. Interpol wanted these cocoons bad enough to send Mr. Latouche undercover. You kids think up the craziest things. But no way I'm going to risk life and limb just to get my hands on some dirty cocoon money. Not the most noble of statements, but duly noted. According to reports, these cocoons top Interpol's list. Selling them to an underground organization would be risky. Very well, you may begin the cross-examination. This is the only motive I've got. He was up to something, and I'm going to find out what.
Present the newspaper article in the third statement.
Objection!
Why not choose a less dangerous buyer then? I would. How clueless are you? Everyone in the market's dangerous. The second they found out I was a cop, I could kiss my arse goodbye. So why sell to a black market buyer? How about someone like this? That article. That's about the Chief Justice's... A deadly poison can be extracted from the cocoon, but so can a cure. And not a cure for just any disease. A cure for incuritis. That's such a stupid name.
I know.
Incuritis? I've heard of that somewhere. You went to visit a victim of the disease this morning. Aha! Why, that's the disease the Chief Justice's son has. You aren't saying... Our witness is a detective. He would have contact with the Chief Justice. You're saying the Chief Justice would never deal in contraband? Not even to save his own son's life? But even if the deal went through, why, it'd be an international scandal. That's Detective Christen's insurance. If word ever got out, the one with his neck on the line would be the Chief Justice. Detective Crescent, is this true? First I'm a murderer, now I'm a smuggler. How many crimes are you going to pin on me anyway? Distasteful as it is, I think about, if the Chief Justice were the buyer, why, a seller couldn't hope for a better deal. A very cowardly seller. Don't let sleeves over there trick you. So I made a deal with the Chief Justice. Where's your proof? Well, oh yeah, and you're forgetting one other important thing. Do tell. Interpol isn't the only one out there watching this. Virginian Customs barely sleep. They're so worried about Cocoon's getting out. So we were informed. Let's continue with the cross-examination.
These are new.
Virginian Customs is very thorough. Everything and everyone gets checked.
Next.
Cocoon
That's
possession.
new.
Cocoon possession will get you arrested on the spot and then sentenced to death. Hey man, if there's a way to get Cocoons out of there, I'd sure like to know.
Gavin's guitar!
Objection!
Actually, there is one way. What? One way to get something out of the country, no checks. What is it? You become a prosecutor. A prosecutor? I don't believe it. Believe it, Prosecutor Gavin. What was it that you told me yesterday at your office? It was a beautiful instrument. It was played lovingly for many years. A guitar befitting a woman like Lamy Roar.
How did it end up here?
I mentioned how much I enjoyed playing it that night, and she made a present of it.
So this guitar's from Virginia?
That it is. We couldn't carry it on the plane. Changes in air pressure and humidity ruined the wood. So we vacuum packed it in Lamy Roar's studio. I used a special shipping service available to me for transporting evidence. They brought it right up to my office for me. Pretty sure that's illegal.
Yeah, it is.
Pristine and untouched.
If it didn't work for Johnny Cash, it wouldn't work for you.
Did I get that right, Prosecutor Gavin? Untouched? Quite. The guitar was wrapped in several sheets and vacuum packed in Virginia. The pack was untouched until the day of the concert. Are you saying that guitar was... With Cocoons this small, it would have been very easy. To use your guitar as a mule to smuggle a Cocoon out of Virginia. What? Which reminds me, Prosecutor Gavin, that guitar had some work done on it recently, right? Work? Good memory, Herr Forehead. Well, you know how guitars have a round hole in the front? It's called the sound hole. Well, they found something attached to the wood just inside the hole. A broken device of some sort.
A broken device?
Yes, this, in fact. An igniter. Exactly. Consider this if you will. What if the igniter wasn't the only thing that was attached inside your guitar?
You mean...
He means this, of course. Ah! There was a way to get a Cocoon out of the country. They could use picky Prosecutor Gavin's privileged guitar as a mule. And who better to do that than someone with access? Like a member of the band. Oh. Order! 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 So the igniter was placed in there for a clear reason, it seems. It was a safety precaution. A precaution? Ah, Herr Forehead. At last it all comes together. Every strange thing that happened that day. Care to review? Maestro, the gentle sounds of... Oop, I hate when it does that.
I know.
First, my keys were stolen. A harmless misdemeanor. Which forced me to break the lock on my guitar case. The key was stolen to retrieve the Cocoon from the guitar. I see. But things didn't go so well. The smuggler wasn't counting on the guitar being wrapped. Only a member of the band could get near that case. Unwrapping the guitar would raise too many suspicions. Then the concert began. Right about this time, a very large problem presented itself to the smuggler. What's that? Mr. Latouche.
Mr. Latouche, an undercover agent who was onto something. He would have known about the guitar. He'd only have to check shipping records. So, Mr. Latouche tried to examine the guitar himself. If the cocoon were confiscated, then the gig would be up. The only thing left for the smuggler would be to get rid of the whole lot. It's over. Press the switch. Now! The guitar burst into flames, and the cocoon was lost. And then, Mr. Latouche died, with Lamiroir there to witness it. There's your case. Brilliant, mate. Detective Crescent? I gotta know, you make all that up on the fly? For a made-up story, it makes a great deal of sense, Darian. Feh, the Republic of Virginia? Sorry, mate, but I haven't even been there. True, you haven't. Ha! Let's see you make up a story for that, then. How did I hide the cocoon in the first place, huh? It's not so hard to imagine. You had help, a Virginian accomplice. That's all. That you had an accomplice was clear from the start. The voice Lamiroir heard proves it. It's over. Press the switch, now! You made this transmission from backstage. Well, your co-conspirator was on stage. But who was it? This is it. The coup de grace. And for once I know what I'm doing. There's only one person who could have helped him. Let's hear what Mr. Justice has to say then. But be warned. With a great accusation comes great responsibility. Make up your answer on the fly, as it were, and you'll be harshly penalized. Are you ready, Mr. Justice? Who was the smuggler's accomplice?
Machi Tobai.
Take that!
There's only one person who meets all the requirements of the accomplice, and that person is the defendant, Machi Tobai. But, Mr. Justice, he's your client! A defense attorney accusing his client? That's a new one! I assure you, no one is more unhappy about this than I. But I'm here to defend him in the murder of Mr. Latouche. And I stand by my statement earlier that he is innocent of that particular crime. Indeed, the defendant is Borginian. He does meet the basic requirements to be an accomplice. But what if it was in fact Lamiroir? It couldn't have been. Well, you seem sure of yourself. The reason is electronic signals, Your Honor. Electronic signals? Recall that this remote only works on a range of 30 feet. Beyond that, it's useless. Yes, that's true. Now think back to the testimony. When the shooter made his transmission, Lamiroir was in the air vent, right above the dressing room where the shooter stood. Let's look at the stage diagram. This is the area the remote could reach from the air vent. Well, looking at this, it seems that Lamiroir still could have done the deed. No. When the shooter made that transmission, the stage was slightly different than shown here. It was in the middle of the guitar serenade. Part of the stage was raised. Prosecutor Gavin and the Lamiroir stand-in were in the air. They were on a tower which happens to be 15 feet tall. In other words, the remote couldn't have worked with Lamiroir's position in the air vent. Well, Detective Crescent, what do you say to that? Your Honor? Yes, Detective? Could we see the video where Gavin's guitar burns? Just one more time? I don't see why not. What? Don't tell me he has a way out of this.
Pleasure, what a fleeting melody. It wraps itself around me, and now through the air I fly.
His guitar was already on fire there?
Exactly, it's right there.
Too bad. So sad. Punk.
Okay, Sonadow. Okay, Sonadow. Too bad, so sad. First you were sleeves, then kid, now punk. You're losing rank fast, Apollo.
What exactly were we supposed to see in the video? The problem isn't in what we see, correct, Darian? Right. It's what you hear. We're musicians, after all. Care to explain it for us non-musicians? Sure thing, punk. Let me get your yarn straight first. You're saying I ordered the wee pianist to set off that igniter. That's right? Yes? Well, in order to do that, we have to press a switch. Am I right? Okay. Well, take another listen. Pay attention to the piano. Piano? What seems to be the problem there? The piano sounded just fine. And that's the problem, mate. You still don't get it? Yeah. How's he supposed to hit that switch if he's playing? You've got Miss Diva, the guitar, the bass, the piano, and the drums. The only one with her hands free was the diva.
Lamiwa!
But according to you, she couldn't have been the accomplice, could she? Your accomplice would have had a hard time helping out if they couldn't even press a switch. The piano plays non-stop.
Not unless we mute all the parts on the mixing board and find it.
He couldn't have pressed that switch. Well, Mr. Justice, the piano does seem to be playing when the guitar catches fire. Well, it's okay. We all make mistakes sometimes.
Apollo, were you wrong?
I can't be wrong. Everything makes perfect sense. How could it all just... Strange. What's strange? No, it's just... Something's odd about the performance there. Odd? Mr. Justice, if Machi Tobai didn't press that switch, then he could not be an accomplice you claim he is. But everything points to it. Every fact says he's the accomplice. You got the facts wrong, mate. Here are some facts for you. Gavin's guitar is on fire, but the pianist didn't press that switch. In other words, your story is full of holes. Mr. Justice, let's hear your final opinion on the matter now. Was the defendant Machi Tobai the accomplice? Your answer will reflect on everything you've said here. Give it some thought.
Apollo, if Machi is not the accomplice, then our whole case is ruined.
I know that. It has to be him. He was the only one who could have helped the smuggler. He had to have pressed that switch.
Well, he better find a way to prove it.
Ugh. What do I do? What do I do?
There has to be something that doesn't fit. Something odd.
Something odd. Wait a second.
What? You thought of something?
What was Gavin saying just now? Strange. What's strange? No, it's just... Something's odd about the performance there. It's not much to go on, but it's all I've got. What exactly did he hear that was odd? Have you come up with something, Mr. Justice? May I remind you that everything rests on this. Can you prove Machi Tobai pressed that switch? Let's hear your final answer. What is this, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
I know.
Can you prove that Machi Tobai pressed that switch?
I can prove it.
I don't know if you call this proof per se, but I can prove it was possible. Then, as prosecutor, it falls on me to ask you to show us evidence supporting this. Hair Forehead, you're sure about this? Ha! Accept it. There's no evidence, mate. Let's just see your evidence, Mr. Justice. What do you call your... On what do you base your claim that the defendant pressed that switch?
The mixing board.
The basis for my claim is music, Your Honor. Music? What about music? Let's listen to the piano part around the time when the switch was to be pressed. Right before the guitar burst into flames. I hear a piano being played. But, doesn't it sound kind of simple? Simple? Ah, I think I know what he's suggesting. Played with one hand. You think Machi could have played that part with one hand? One hand? He only needed one hand to press that switch. He could play the piano with the other. What? So you're some kind of piano savant? Actually, no. Then what do you know? You can't play a part like that with one hand. Ugh. Maybe. I don't know what I'm talking about here. Wait,
Wait,
I know. Wait,
Okay.
I know. Hey, Trucy!
Yeah? You got something?
Mr. Wright, your father, he's a pianist. Could he...
Oh, Daddy? He couldn't play a part like that even if he had 3 hands.
So sorry. So sad for you. No, not really. What? This was just the easy way to prove it. There's always the hard way. Man, how are you going to prove whether he played it with one hand or two? You can't! I admit, it'll be rather difficult to prove, but it's highly likely he was playing with one hand. How do you know that? The clue is what Prosecutor Gavin described as sounding odd. What sounded odd? I'll bet we can tell by listening to a certain part of the song. No way. Well, it seems we've come to the moment of truth at last. Let's hear what Mr. Justice has to say for himself. Show us the part that proves the defendant was playing with one hand, right before the guitar burst into flames. Machi was definitely playing one hand just before the guitar caught fire. And one section of the song proves it.
All right. Mute 1, 2, 3, and 5. Mute them all. Mute parts 1, 2, 3, and 5. And play the first part. Highlight 4 and play the first part of the song. Present. See, at the last second, the note changed.
Prosecutor Gavin, I'm sure you've realized by now. Just what is it that sounded odd to you? As I'm sure you've realized it yourself, Hair Forehead. Realize what? Someone fucking tell me something! I'll demonstrate. Let's listen to the part in question again, shall we? Pay particular attention to "but a fleeting melody" phrase. Mate, how many times do we have to listen to the same thing? You're right. Enough of that. Let's listen to another section, shall we? Another section? The guitar burst into flame at the end of the second verse. Let's listen to the same spot, in the first verse. Pay attention to "Oh That Night in Your Embrace."
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a musician, and even I could hear the note was off.
Yep.
Play verse 2 again.
There! Did you
Yeah.
hear that?
An extra note.
Yep.
The arrangement changed.
They feel the same, true, but they're clearly very different. What?
Well put, Your Honor. The phrase in verse 2 is quite simple, but the same phrase in verse 1 has high and low notes. You'd have to use 2 hands to play that for sure.
Ah. Ugh. What does that prove?
I would think you would know that by now.
Mm-hmm.
This is why I hate dealing with amateurs, mate. So the two verses had different arrangement. Happens all the time. Not this time, Darian. There's no point in changing an arrangement if you can't hear it clearly. And that wasn't the point. I heard him play specifically so that the piano would stay in the background.
Oh.
That was what I noticed. Why should the same phrase sound slightly different? I asked myself. Now ask yourself why Machi changed how he played, and there's only one answer. He needed a free hand in order to press the switch. Ugh.
Order! 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 I believe this ties all the facts together. Well, Prosecutor Gavin?
Yes, quite. Though, personally, this comes as a terrible disappointment.
Huh.
What, no comeback? I can't believe it. I finally did it. I shut him up.
Very well. Barring an objection from the prosecution, I will now state the court's opinion on the matter.
Huh.
Good show, Sleeves. No, great show.
It's not over. I don't like it when he looks so happy.
You tell him, Gavin. Tell him what's so disappointing.
Personally, I'm terribly disappointed. In you, Herr Forehead.
Huh? Me?
Yes. Don't get me wrong, your case is solid. The facts all check out, but even now, you have yet to show us a simple piece of decisive evidence.
Yeah, but the facts! Anyone could see it was him! Unfortunately, anyone does not include the law. I'm afraid your case doesn't cut it. But... 1,000 facts might point towards the same conclusion. But without decisive evidence, it's not proof. That's the rule under our current legal system. I don't believe it! It does seem as though the evidence has any more evidence to present.
Oh, I think we did all. I think if he did, he would already seen it a long ways back.
It is unfortunate, but at present, this court is unable to acknowledge your accusation.
What? The truth is staring us all right in the face. Why can't they see it? What's the point of a legal system that protects criminals?
Apollo, remember what Daddy said?
It won't be easy proving he did it. Especially not under the current court system. So what do I do? Like I said, good luck. And be aware that it will be impossible to prove his guilt by conventional methods. Ugh. Every man has an igniter inside him. Find Darian Crescent's igniter. Set it off.
I wonder what he meant by every man's igniter.
I think he just meant a weak spot, no? The kind of thing that a single spark could turn into a wildfire of emotion? I won't be able to press him further by conventional means. I've got to find a weak spot in this guy. Something fatal. So, can I get back to work now or what? It may look like I got a lot of time in my hands, but I got no more time to play pretend with this deadweight attorney.
Well, Mr. Justice, we've come this far without decisive evidence. This witness won't be coming back to the stand unless once we let him go.
Every man has an igniter. Huh? Don't you say the better the guitar, the brighter it burns, Prosecutor Gavin? Ah, yes. Good guitars are kept dry, is why. That provides the best sound. Even a small spark could cause irreparable damage. Your plan has an igniter in it too, Detective. It was there from the very beginning. What? Fighting time, Justice. If you blow this one, he'll be out of your hands for good.
Go for it, Apollo.
What? And this igniter's supposed to come burn me up? That's almost poetic there, Mr. Attorney. All the better, I'm rather fond of poetry. And I intend to hear this one through to the very end. Herr Forehead, you're accusing this man, Darian Crescent, of 2 crimes. The murder of Mr. Latouche and the smuggling of the Borginian cocoon. This is your last chance to prove your case. This trial has already run on for far too long. Mr. Justice, this will be my last warning. The moment this igniter of yours turns out to be a dud is the moment this cross-examination ends. Understood? Yes, Your Honor. Then let's have it. Show us the basis for these accusations against Darian Crescent. Okay, this is really my last chance. The key that will take apart Darian Crescent's plan.
Call a witness.
Your igniter isn't a part of piece of evidence. Huh? So what is... It is true that I couldn't show decisive evidence, but perhaps what I needed to prove my case was something else. You mean, a witness? Proving his guilt is a tall order, but I've got just the person to do it. Very well, Mr. Justice. Who is this person who can prove Darian Crescent's guilt?
Machi Tobai.
Take that!
The one person who can prove Darian Crescent's guilt is the defendant, Machi Tobai. Your client, again? Machi Tobai was an accomplice to the cocoon smuggling plot. Without him, Darian Crescent could not have gotten the cocoon. Furthermore, he can easily prove that the one who plotted to smuggle the cocoon is the real criminal in this case. How so? It would require just one of the very cocoons Mr. Latouche was looking for. With the cooperation of the Republic of Virginia, we could burn a cocoon. The burnt cocoon would leave a particular residue. A residue we would no doubt also find inside the burnt-out guitar. Aha! Very scientific of you. Thus, if Machi Tobai acknowledges his agreement with Darian Crescent concerning the attempted smuggling of a Virginian cocoon, the case is solved.
Darian's laughing again.
Your unrelenting passion is remarkable. You really want to get me, don't you? Too bad you'll never be able to. Why not? That little key tickler won't acknowledge anything. Especially not anything to do with cocoon smuggling. What's this all about? Taking a cocoon out of the country means death. By Borginian law. Yeah, see? If our pianist really was a smuggler, then testifying about it would be suicide. Believe me, he's not talking. But you're wrong, Detective Crescent. What? It's the other way around. If Machi doesn't admit to smuggling here, he's in deep trouble. Huh? How? Look, if Machi admits to smuggling here, then he'll be tried on our courts by our laws. You don't get the death penalty for smuggling in our country. Ugh. The victim in this case was an undercover Interpol agent. I'm sure that news has already reached Virginia, and they'll likely broadcast our dealings in court today, including the part about the Borginian cocoon. Yeah, but... But if Machi doesn't admit to smuggling now, he'll eventually be picked up by the Borginian police. And it's not like he's in any danger in our court. We're not going to find him guilty of murder here. Not now. Yeah, but you can't do this! You can't accuse me! Maybe the law doesn't allow it. But who's going to think you're really innocent after all, after hearing this trial? The same goes for Machi Tobai. Ugh! The cocoon smuggling, your entire plan. Machi Tobai knows everything. There's only one way out of it for him. And that's to acknowledge his own crime. The crime of cocoon smuggling. Don't worry there. I'll get you out of the country. I'll set you up someplace. A hidden mansion? Real nice. You want a house made of cookies? Or, no, a house made out of pianos? Come on. Please! Whoa! Jesus!
Gotcha, bitch!
Don't take the stand! Or don't talk, rather.
Don't talk!
Don't talk! Jesus!
Erectile dysfunction. Nice.
I consider that my last session with you. We rocked. I'm guessing we can treat the outburst as a confession?
Uh-oh, he's laughing again.
There's a kind of sick desperation in it now, though.
Give us your swan song.
Well, have you been listening to today's trial?
Yes.
And you'll talk. You'll tell this court everything. I didn't want it to turn out this way, but I'm not the kind of lawyer that can overlook a crime. Today's trial was all for your benefit, you know. I see no reason why you should hesitate now.
I knew. From beginning, I knew.
Machi.
Situation I cannot explain, but money I needed. Very much money.
Today's trial raises a delicate issue with our legal system. No kidding. The only thing definite in law is evidence. This is the golden rule. However, it has become apparent that not all things can be tried by this standard. Should another case of this sort surface, we may have to consider an alternate system by which to administer justice. Anyway, Mr. Machi Tobai,
Yes?
I promise you will receive a fair trial by the laws of our country. And, with regards to the current charges for the murder of Mr. Latouche, this court is prepared to announce a verdict.
I thank you. I only lie, but you see truth. You find truth.
That's our job. Very well. This court finds the defendant, Machi Tobai, not guilty.
We did it!
My fucking throat.
We're almost done. Just the recess.
Court is adjourned.
I wonder what will happen to Machi.
Well, he did smuggle a cocoon out of Virginia. I guess there'll be another trial here. All's well that ends well.
Daddy! I owe you both my thanks.
Let me roar.
Is something wrong?
I'm sorry. Machi was your partner on stage. Your friend.
Yes, I thought of him as my own son. Even now I do, yet... something got a hold of him. Something evil. I see that. And he must pay for what he has done. Is that not how it should be?
Still sorry.
Do not be sorry. You have given me courage. Courage? I am considering an eye operation.
It was my suggestion, actually.
You mean you'll be able to see again?
What is this, Yu-Gi-Oh?
It's funny. I've always been afraid of the light. Light seems so harsh, so unforgiving.
According to the doctor, Lamiror lost her sight due to some kind of accident. An accident?
I knew it. As you know, I suffer from amnesia. I feared that, if I could see, perhaps it would open my eyes to the truth that I've been running from. I was scared.
You know what changed her mind? Hearing your defense in there today. She could feel your gaze, unwavering, always looking straight at the truth.
If the light returns to my eyes, I think I will take up painting.
Painting?
That's right! She's a landscape painter in sound after all. I will paint the two of you, I promise. Woohoo! I can't wait, Lemuel!
I owe you my thanks too, Apollo. Thanks, Mr. Wright. But for what? You reminded me I need to hurry things along. On my secret mission, that is. Right, your secret mission.
Apollo, Trucy. I hope that we will meet again someday soon. You bet! Me too!
And so, like a ballad, the trial flowed on and on until it came to an end. Thanks to the trial, the guitar serenade was a huge hit. Prosecutor Gavin's even more dazzling to look at now. But there's something I want to say to that guy. Next time you write a ballad...
Have them catch the killer at the end.
Ugh. Whew.
We did it!
Bloody hell, forgot how long the final phase was?
Whew. And I imagine the final case will be even longer.
For the completion of episode 3 of Apollo Justice Ace Attorney, Turnabout Serenade.
And we're on to the final episode, episode 4, Turnabout Succession.
Yep. And trust me, this one is, unique.
Yeah, episode 4 is a real doozy.
It is, but in a good way.
And yeah, it's a good way, and it can be emotional too.
Well, it is Ace Attorney. Being emotional is kind of his job.
Yeah.
Phew. Right, now I have to go and rest my throat.
Yeah.
Thanks, surprisingly quiet chat this week.
Yeah, I know.
But thanks for tuning in regardless.
Yep.
I know
See
it's
you next time.
I know it's
What's
hard to get. I know it's hard to get questions in when we stream Ace Attorney since it's essentially a play.
Yeah. But I hope you all enjoyed it.
Yep. Thanks for tuning in, and tune in next week for more GTA San Andreas. Hope to see you then.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.